Okay, where the fuck do I start? So it's been about a year since Sonic Forces got released, so I guess I should review it finally. It was around 2 years ago when we got that reveal trailer for the game when it was just Project 2017. I remember I was kinda hyped when I was watching it, but then Classic Sonic appeared and then I just lost all faith into it. Didn't help that as the months went on, it just became progressively like not what I wanted from a 3D Sonic game, or a modern Sonic game in general. Even when we finally got to see the gameplay, it just kept turning me off of it. Then we got the third character reveal and I completely gave up on Sonic Forces. I stopped following it, I just didn't give a shit every time news was brought up about it. I just sorta moved on from it and just kept my eyes on Sonic Mania when that was about to get released. And then in November, Sonic Forces came out, and it did not faze me. I don't know, there was just a lot of red flags with Sonic Forces when I initially just saw everything about it. I wasn't being a dick to anyone who was excited about it, because honestly, more power to those people, and I honestly hope they enjoyed the game when it came out. But at the same time, holy shit, I wish I could have been as excited as these people. Anyways, before we dive into the game itself, let's look at the cover art because this is fucking awful. Why is there so much shit on this cover art? Why are all these characters here? Why is Metal Sonic there? He's only on one boss fight and he doesn't even leave that much of an impact. Why is the custom character green all of a sudden when he was red in the trailers? And if you think the cover art already looks pretty cluttered and bad, just look at the Switch version. Look how smaller it is. That really doesn't help it. Okay, whatever, let's get to the game. What the fuck was the plot of this game again? I've done 3 full playthroughs of it, and I even did a Let's Play on it, which honestly I think I'm gonna unlist after this review because I think it's a lousy Let's Play. If I remember properly, like it starts out with Eggman working on something, and I think it involves the creation of Infinite, the new character in this game, who has a pretty nice design, but also a pretty horrible backstory where he was an assassin trying to go after Shadow or something like that. Then Shadow just beat him up and then called him names and then he just ran off and then Infinite just raged out, put on a mask and became Infinite. Even though at the start of this game it seems like Eggman was the one who made Infinite, and later on in the game they even comment about how Eggman made Infinite in this factory, because we end up playing through it near the end of the game. So like, is Infinite like his own person? Is he a creation of Eggman, or just what the fuck were they even doing? Okay, so like Sonic gets beat up, then he's thrown in jail for a few months. It's claimed that he was tortured, but then we see Sonic in jail, completely fine, cracking jokes that aren't funny, because Pontac and Graf wrote the English translation, so it's about as funny as you'd expect it to be, which is not funny at all. And then Sonic escapes, they team up with this new character who they don't even give a name, they just call him Rookie, and then I think they call him Hero or some dumb fucking name, I don't know. So I guess Infinite's plan was just get the Phantom Ruby and then use it to power the sun, and then the sun's gonna destroy everyone. But then at the end they get rid of the sun, and then they beat up Infinite again, then he just flies away. I still don't get what they were trying to do with this character. But then of course Eggman ends up popping up at the end after Infinite disappears, and we fight him, and then we kind of kill him, I guess, because he doesn't pop up in an end credit scene where he's like, oh, I'm still alive, I'm gonna go after Sonic in the next game. Instead, everyone just sort of celebrates, and then the Rookie runs off, and then he goes meet Sonic, and Sonic's like, yeah, I'm going on another adventure. It's pretty chill. By the way, this game's only like 2 hours if you skip every cutscene like I did on my first playthrough, because I don't care about this plot. So Sonic runs off to do something, and then the custom hero just goes away to probably never be seen ever again. The plot of Sonic Forces is very basic, non-existent, and not very well done. I think one thing that really hurts this game is that I just don't like the way the cutscenes look. Something about them just feel really cheap. There's a lot of very just confusing bits that I don't really completely remember. The one I do remember is when Tails is encountered by Chaos Zero, and even though he's fought, say, Chaos 4 in the past, for some reason Tails is just terrified about Chaos Zero. Oh yeah, Classic Sonic's in this fucking plot. I forgot. Damn. Yeah, Classic Sonic is there. He doesn't do anything, and he just leaves. That's it. There was no point to putting him in this game. Like, he's only here just to tie in Sonic Mania, and even then, that doesn't even tie in properly. Like, remember the Phantom Ruby, that main plot element in Sonic Mania? Well, it's in Forces, but it's like so tossed away. Like at the very end, the custom hero uses it to get rid of the sun or something, then he just trips and it shatters on the ground. So it's like, yeah, there went the Phantom Ruby, there went all of Sonic Mania. I hope you were intrigued by that. I don't know what else to say about the plot, aside from that I don't care about it. And I'm sorry for all like the gameplay aficionados who are gonna leave comments again on this review saying, oh, the plot doesn't matter, get to the gameplay. But I feel like a plot in a video game is important, and it could even be the driving force of what makes you want to keep playing the game. So I think just tossing aside the plot, even if it's horribly written or just not a whole lot of efforts put into it, like this game's case, I don't know, I feel like that's not the best way to look at things, in my opinion at least. I can understand why people only play video games for video games, but I feel like if this game's gonna have a plot, at least have a good one. And I don't want to rant about the voice acting because fucking Cooper's perspective, there's like hours worth of me bitching about the voice acting and I know you guys are all sick of it. But I've heard a lot of people say they think the modern cast in this game sound the best out of all the games. But to be honest, I actually think the opposite. I think they all sound worse. Like this is their worst performances. Like, I still think Sonic Colors was their best, and I hated them there. Like, I just think the acting's off, all the voices I still don't think fit the characters very well. Mike Pollock still turns in a decent performance as Eggman, and the guy playing Infinite does an okay job. But that's about it. I don't care about the voice acting, and it certainly didn't help this game's story and cutscenes.
So, what's your favorite color? Do you like long, romantic walks on the beach? What's the source of your power?
I can taste your terror, child. All that anxiety and doubt. It's delicious.
I still dream that Sonic is with us. Do you think he might be...
I'm an optimist, but I'm also a realist.
The sun will fall upon you all. Boom!
Every time you drop the bomb, you kill the god your child has born.
I guess just going straight to the gameplay, we have 3 characters to play as. I'm gonna go from the best character to the worst character if you guys don't mind. Okay, so the best character in my opinion was the custom hero. I'm honestly not a huge fan of the idea of putting a custom character creator in a Sonic game, but I don't think it's like the worst thing ever, and even though it did turn me off initially, actually getting to play it, it was kind of fun, and I do think the custom hero has the best levels in the game. I mean, I wouldn't go back to play these levels over and over again like the ones in, say, the Sonic Adventure games or Unleashed. But out of all 30 levels in this game, I did enjoy the custom hero levels the most. If there is one big issue I have with the custom hero, it's kind of an issue that I have with all 3 playable characters, meaning that the controls just aren't too tight. When it comes to the custom hero's ground speed, I just feel like he could go from 0 to 110 like way too quickly, so it can be a bit hard to control sometimes. Another issue I just have with the custom hero is actually one that a lot of people have with it, where the customization options aren't too great. It's incredibly limited, and it's not as good as I'm sure everyone was probably hoping it would be. Though I would argue that this is the first time they've ever put something like this in a Sonic game, and if they ever attempted to do this, which I honestly don't think they ever will, I'm sure the second time around will be way better. But as of right now, the custom hero is just... it's okay. The custom hero also gets to use weapons called the Wispins. Yeah, they brought back the Wisps in this game. But this time they're weapons that only the custom hero could use. Actually, the only one I used was the main one that you get at the very beginning where you're shooting fire out of a Wispin. The other one I used was the electric one, which gives you the light dash, but that's about it. The Wispins do have special abilities that you could use to reach higher locations and collect more rings and even red rings, but I personally don't think it added too much to the replay value. Moving on to Modern Sonic, I have extremely mixed feelings about his gameplay. He has the same issue where his ground speed and even ground controls aren't the best. I'm also not a fan of how he just controls probably the worst out of any boost game. Like, I'd probably argue either this or Colors was when he controlled the worst, but I think that Forces is way more offensive in my eyes because this is being done on more advanced hardware than the Wii or the PS3 era of games, but for some reason it's worse than those two. In my opinion, I still think Sonic Unleashed nailed it, and even though like Generations had a few things I didn't really like that they changed about it, I would still kinda say it did have the best ground control in terms of like how you can move Sonic and adjust your jumps and whatnot. But you can't really do that for Sonic in this game. Like, his ground momentum just doesn't exist, and he can't even drift anymore. Like, what the fuck is that about? He does have the stomp, the homing attack, the boost, and all those other cool things, but I don't understand why they took away some features that the last few games had. So Modern Sonic is okay, but I wouldn't say his levels were that fun to play through, and I'll get to that in a bit. Okay, Classic Sonic. You know what I'm gonna say, he's fucking awful. If there was one character where I wouldn't replay any of their levels at all, it would be Classic Sonic. His issue stems from the level design, which I'm gonna get to right after this. But another big issue is that out of all 3 characters in the 2D segments, Classic Sonic controls the absolute worst in this game. Which is not a good thing, because all of his levels are fully 2D. Like, his momentum's off, using something as simple as the spin dash isn't even that fun anymore, and because they needed to tie this in with Sonic Mania, they gave him the drop dash. But considering the momentum issue I brought up, it feels broken. Like, it functions just like it did in Sonic Mania, but it just doesn't feel as fluent. It's not fun using the drop dash in this game, and that fucking sucks, because I loved it in Mania. I think releasing this game right after Mania was a fucking terrible idea, because Sonic Mania, say what you will about the game's lack of originality and stuff like that, the gameplay was solid. It nailed the classic Sonic gameplay perfectly. So I think there is no reason why they gave us such a shitty classic Sonic in Forces. You can't give us this after Mania. He controls like a fucking tank in this game, and he weighs 1,000,000 fucking pounds, which is not fun to play through in a platformer, by the way. Like, even his gameplay in Generations, which was still pretty off when it came to classic Sonic gameplay, even Generations got the gameplay better than Forces. Which just makes me repeat the same question I have for Modern Sonic, which is, how did they make this worse than the last few games? Classic Sonic is fucking horrible in this game. I hate it. I hate Classic Sonic in this game. It's not fun to play through, and just, oh my fucking god, how did they ruin this? Holy shit. As mixed as my feelings for all 3 of these characters are, I think one thing that kind of affects this game is, well, the level designs. This comes a pretty common complaint that Sonic Forces had. The level layouts in this game are not very inspired. Ignoring the fact that there's a lot of repeated levels like fucking Green Hill and Chemical Plant again, it's just overall not memorable. There's no major set pieces that you remember from each individual level. They all just blend in together because they're all designed the exact same. What also hurts is that there's a lot of 2D in this game, which I don't get. Now, there are 3D sections, but almost all of them are extremely linear to a point where they just might as well be 2D. I mean, they basically are. You're just holding forward instead of right all the time. They're also just as automated as the 2D sections. Seriously, this isn't how you're supposed to do Sonic level design. You can't just place a bunch of springs and speed boosters everywhere and expect it to work out. This is just another major element that makes every level in this game blend in together and just not stick out. Graphically, the levels look okay. I'm kinda not being fair to this game because I am playing the Switch version, which is probably the version that plays and looks the worst. But I have played the PS4 version, that was the one I used for that crappy Let's Play. And even on PS4, okay, I do think the game can look kinda good sometimes. That new version of Metropolis they have in this game looks fucking great. I love the white aesthetic in this level, and honestly, I don't think they should have called this Metropolis, but I feel like they just did because, oh, Sonic 2 callback, people get it, haha, even though Metropolis in Sonic 2 was fucking green, and you can't really argue that this is Grand Metropolis from Heroes because even that was green and blue. Like, what the fuck happened? But overall, I'd say graphically, it doesn't rival Unleashed. Which again is just weird to say because this is being done on more current hardware, so logically you'd assume that this game would look better than a game that came out 10 fucking years ago. I remember back when they showed off like Modern Sonic's gameplay for the first time, they brought up that they did develop the Hedgehog Engine 2 for this game, and when I heard about that I was just like, oh crap, this game's gonna look good. But apparently they didn't even utilize all the Hedgehog Engine 2's graphical capabilities, so the game just looks underwhelming, and it doesn't help that I'm playing this on the Switch. I was gonna use the PS4 version, but then my PS4 kind of fucking died on me and I gotta get it fixed, and I don't have an Xbox One, so I had to go for the next best thing. I guess what I'm trying to say is that Sonic Forces is just not that fun to play, and graphically it's not that great to look at. You could plow through this entire game in less than 3 hours if you're really good at it, and to be honest, getting S ranks in this game is piss easy. Another major issue with all the levels in this game is that they're extremely short. Like, almost all the levels in this game are consistently the same length, meaning they could range from 1 minute to 2 minutes, which is not fun. Doesn't help that Classic Sonic has some of the longer levels, and you already know that I hate Classic Sonic in this game, so the fact that he has the longest levels in this game really doesn't help. But every level you could plow through so quickly, even on the first playthrough. Like shit, if you've never played any of the Boost games, you could easily make this your first game and you could beat it so easily. So easily. The boss fights aren't even that good. In fact, I had to look up a fucking guide to even remember what all of them were. Like, there's Zavok, or Zavok as Roger calls him that in the cutscene for some reason. You fight Infinite like 3 times, then you fight Metal Sonic, then you fight Eggman once, and then Eggman's the final boss, and that's about it. I find it kind of shitty that in the promotional trailers, they were making out that they brought back Chaos, and they're also making Shadow a villain again. So you'd assume that there was going to be boss fights in this game with those two, but they're both killed off pretty easily in the cutscenes, so you don't even get that. Hell, for the modding community, they can't even rip this Chaos model from the cutscenes because these are all pre-rendered, so the model's nowhere in the game. That fucking sucks, especially since this modern model for Chaos looks really fucking good. So all the boss fights are just really piss easy, they're not very well made, they're also just not fun, and with the final boss, it can last way too fucking long. Like during my 3rd playthrough, which I ended up recording so I could have footage for this game, I got so bored during the final boss that I just wanted it to end so I could stop playing this game. There's just not a whole lot of appeal to this game and its boss fights, and it's kinda lazy when you think about it. Like the Metal Sonic boss fight where you're avoiding him and dodging him and quick-stepping the move away from obstacles he sends at you. Guess what? They just reused that entire concept for Infinite's final battle with you. Like, this is the last impression we have of Infinite, and you're just doing the Metal Sonic boss fight again. That's just lazy. Guess while we're on the topic of laziness, the soundtrack. I don't like it. I don't like Sonic Forces soundtrack. There are people who like it, and you know, good for you guys. Again, more power to you for enjoying it, continue liking it. But for me, I don't know, I don't like the direction of the soundtrack. A lot of the level tunes for the custom hero and Sonic are kind of forgettable. A lot of it sounds like trap music, as I heard one of my friends call it, and I'm not too much into trap music to begin with, and I personally don't think putting it in a Sonic game all throughout it really fits. All of Classic Sonic's levels are done with Genesis Twang sound chips, which does sound pretty good, but I remember when I first heard Classic Sonic's music in this game, I fucking hated it. I hated that they went with the Genesis sound chip, especially since this game's not trying to look Genesis-like. I kinda wish they just stuck with what they did for Generations classic music, where it was techno with a slight hint of Genesis in it. The classic Sonic music has kinda grown on me, but I still just am not a big fan of it. I also think this was the first Sonic game in several years to have vocal themes in the actual levels. I welcome that idea, but again, I'm just not the biggest fan of the direction for this game, so a lot of the vocal themes just don't really click with me. The one I did kinda like was Aqua Road. I think a lot of the songs with the female singers sound pretty good. But with the opposite gender, I don't like Fist Bump. I never liked Fist Bump. I like the instrumental, but I don't like Hoobastank. I'm not a fan. If you saw my Let's Play, I was pretty harsh on Infinite's theme, but I think over time it kinda grew on me. But I wouldn't say it's one of my top 10. It's okay. Infinite's theme is okay. But to be perfectly honest, I've heard way better fan remixes of Sonic Forces soundtrack. Like Emmy Jones, Little Boulder, you name it. I think they nailed the soundtrack more than Otani did. Yeah, Tomoyo Otani, he was the sound director for this game. The same guy who directed Sonic 06, Sonic Unleashed, even colors his soundtrack. Hell, I'd even go as far to say the work he did for Sonic Lost World sounded better than Forces. Again, if you like Forces soundtrack, good for you, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm not a fan of it, and I personally don't think Tomoyo Otani should continue in this direction if he thinks it's a good idea. So I guess needless to say, I'm not buying this shit on vinyl. I think that's everything in Sonic Forces. Oh, there's episode Shadow, which is kinda interesting, I guess. It gives the infinite backstory, which unfortunately contradicts the actual backstory you get at the very beginning of the game. So again, the story in episode Shadow just isn't interesting or that good. The levels themselves for Shadow are okay. They still have the issue where they're not very interesting in their design, and they're also almost completely 2D. But I think getting to play as Shadow again was pretty damn cool, even if he is just a model swap for Sonic. Not counting the party games, it had been over 11 fucking years since we last played as Shadow. Like, I think that is way too fucking long to play as other characters. So anyways, Sonic Forces, I didn't like it. I really don't care about this game, and I think after a year, it really has not left a lasting appeal for me. To be honest guys, the only reason why this game was still in my head for a whole year was because I kept reminding myself, god damn it, I gotta do a fucking review of this game at some point. And, well, here's the review. Sorry it wasn't 2 fucking hours long. I'm sure some of you were hoping it would be that, but to be honest, I don't want to make those type of reviews anymore, and I especially don't want to make them for games like Sonic Forces, because I'd be putting way more effort into this game than the fucking developers did. So I don't want to, okay? I feel like I'm just not the type of guy to do that stuff anymore. Sorry to disappoint, but this is the best you're getting. Guess as a little bit of an update, I do plan on re-reviewing every Sonic game in the future for review. But the way I want to do it is like, instead of doing these huge major reviews where I cram everything into it, I'm thinking about maybe separating them into multiple parts. Like have one part focus on the story, then the other part focus on the gameplay. I think that would be a pretty good idea. I mean, for games like say Knuckles Chaotix, which I do still plan on reviewing, or if I re-reviewed the classic games, I wouldn't do them in multiple parts, because I do feel like those are very simplistic titles that don't really deserve multi-parts. But for games like Adventure, Adventure 2, even Heroes, and God, Unleashed, where they have really in-depth stories, yeah, those are getting their own multi-part re-reviews. I don't plan on doing those until like sometime early next year, so hope you guys look forward to that. And God knows I wasn't gonna start doing that for Sonic Forces, because fuck that. I think I'd have a better chance at 100%ing Sonic Labyrinth than sitting down and writing a extremely long, detailed review of Sonic Forces. No thanks. Johnny already pointed this out when people thought the Forces review was gonna be as long as his 06 review, but no, I'm not doing that. I mean, people already made pretty long reviews of Sonic Forces, so if you want to see a long review of Forces, go watch those people. So yeah, that was the Sonic Forces review. I don't recommend the game. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but if you guys enjoyed it and were pretty hyped for it before it came out and you loved it when it came out, you know, good for you guys. Again, more power to you. I'm personally not gonna play this game ever again, but you know, different strokes for different folks. I'll stick with my HD Unleashed, which is turning 10 years old in this month even. So yeah, we all have a Sonic game for ourselves. I think that's like the interesting part of Sonic, where no matter the quality of the games, at least one Sonic game appeals to anyone. I think that's very important to think about as a Sonic fan. Okay, so some of you guys may have recalled that at the end of the last review, I said I was gonna review Knuckles Chaotix first, but the production of that review kinda didn't work out too well. And then next thing I knew, it was the 20th of October, and I thought, oh shit, well, I'm not gonna get it out in time, and I don't want to rush it out. But then I saw, like, you know what, why don't I just review Sonic Forces and get that out, hopefully, on the 1-year anniversary of the game. Because like midway through the year, when I decided to go back to reviews, that was a concept that I came up with where I wanted to review Sonic Forces, but make it like 1 year later to show that this game really doesn't have a long-lasting appeal. And hopefully it worked out. I did something a little different for this review, where I went completely unscripted, because writing scripts for me is just really stressful and causes me to be very demotivated, and especially if it's about a topic that I just don't give a shit about, like Sonic Forces. So for Forces, I wanted to test out, just write down like the main points that I want to bring up and ramble about. Hopefully it's structured together a decent review, but if there are any like weird holes you guys notice in it, well, it's because I didn't write any of it. I hit record on the microphone, looked at the paper I drew with all the topics I wanted to bring up, and I went. I'm hoping it works out. But don't worry, I don't think every review is going to be exactly like the way I did this one. Like, especially the re-reviews of, like, the adventure games, Unleashed, and the other ones. I'm definitely writing scripts for those so they could be better organized. But for Forces, I didn't want to go through the trouble of writing, like, an in-depth review because I just felt like the game didn't deserve it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little review. I once again want to apologize to the Cooper's Perspective fans who wanted this to be a fucking hour-long behemoth of a review, which I would have just ended up hating like a day after I got the review out. But you know, for the people who still enjoyed this, even with its unscripted ramblings, thank you for watching, and I just want to say, if you want to support my work and have me continue making these type of videos, there's a link to my Patreon in the description, and there's also a Ko-fi if you want to send me some coffee. It's $3 a cup, so your choice. In the description, you'll also find links to my social medias, to Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, so follow me on all of that. I want to give a special thanks to my friend Michelle for drawing the Mania review thumbnail, and I think she's gonna draw the Forces review thumbnail. I don't know, we'll see. Hopefully she will. Special thanks to my friend Emmy Jones and also Little Boulder for providing the background music in this review. Both of them did an excellent job at making a better soundtrack for Sonic Forces than Tomoyo Otani did. Rest in peace. And yeah, thank you to everyone who patiently waited an entire year for me to get this stupid review out. Hope you enjoyed it. This review is dedicated to the Sonic Forces Defense Squad. They will not be missed. Also, Sonic Forces is shit and fuck you, Aaron.